Hey guys, it's Steven for Asians on Film. Thank you so much for joining us. It's our 10th year and we're having it online, a very special year. We hope that you can watch all the amazing films, 68 films to be exact, for this year's selection, and also lots of other goodies on there. So make sure you check out the link in our bio. I'm joined here by the cast of Blind Chance, and this is our director as well as our two cast members. Gentlemen, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So Robin, tell us about your film Blind Chance. This is also, I'd like to add, for those that are just watching this interview, this is Robin's one of two films in our festival. So congratulations, Robin, for being selected twice.
Thank you. So Blind Chance was a film that I made in my first semester at USC grad program. And I was probably given 6 weeks from script to start to finish the entire film. So I pushed for a hope like requirements like things like one location, like 2 cast members. I'm setting these requirements to make things simple for the production, but also if you keep things simple, you're able to really sort of dive into the moment. So this is a moment. This is a film that really sort of explores the moment about two men who met in a club, and then they head to a motel room, and then they form some kind of a bond over their coming out experiences. And this is something that I've sort of been struggling with. I think many other queer artists were being sort of like struggling with, is that forbidden love that sort of chafes against the confines of society. And that's something the two characters have different experiences with. And the question is, how will their differences, how will that different experience inform each other about their own lives? And by sharing that experiences with each other, how will they make each other feel less lonely, and perhaps be comforted in one way or another? So it was interesting that you sort of brought up the other film called Graduation, because I didn't realize it, but my professor told me that they look like companion pieces. I didn't realize that.
It looked like what?
Graduation was.
Repeat that. It looked like
companion pieces. Companion pieces.
Okay.
They're like sister films. So one is pretty. One is purely heartfelt drama, and the other one is more like the rom-com. There are sort of different takes and approaches to it, but it's sort of. But both of these were centered on the themes of coming out of and of forbidden love against society, of course. But that film was given like a reasonably pretty long period of time, about 9 months from start to finish. So I'm also curious to see how the audience's sort of response to both of these as companion pieces when you put them side by side.
So let me ask Vimal, with all that said, thank you, Robin. Vimal, how did you approach acting in this film? How did you get into character? How did you memorize your lines? How did you work offset and onset?
Well, as an actor, I really just went with an open mind, like I do with any film. I just go in. I see myself as like a sponge, so I'm just trying to absorb who the character is, where they're from, what their motive is, what they stand for in the film. And I needed to, with the help of Robin and Tom, they helped me out a lot in terms of getting into character, understanding the character, especially with working with Tom's character. I was really trying to understand what the character was feeling, why they were feeling that way, their background, and how it affected their actions in the movie. In terms of script, I didn't focus too much on memorizing the script rather than feeling the emotion of the character, because I thought if I felt the emotion, I was feeling what the character was feeling, then the dialogue and script would, whatever was written, would come out nicely in terms of execution in the way I said it. I really just went with the flow in that sense. During rehearsals, they made me really feel really comfortable. I know I had to. I was able to in terms of sexuality, I don't know. Are we going to touch about that later, or are we going to talk about that right now?
Well, you mentioned it, and you were talking about depending on Robin and Tom to help you with that. If
Yeah.
you're comfortable with it, feel free to expand, and you can take it away.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I can only relate in terms of, I have some friends who have experience, and with that, and Robin with as a director did really help me out in terms of giving me his backstory, the reason the reason why he wrote Blind Chance, and that really just gave me a different perspective. And I think as an actor, the more perspectives you have, the better understanding of the story that you're trying to um, tell to your audience.
So Tom plays Finn, the other character, who Vimal, who portrays Cameron. They do have intimacy, and Tom, Vimal just mentioned a great perspective, which is what I wanted to ask you. What was your perspective approaching this film? What was your perspective being in the film, Tom?
For me, a lot of the topics hit more close to home. The most predominant one being that the character was written Asian, and Robin's motivation that he shared with both of us, it was inspiring, and also like it was relatable in the sense where it's like, when I thought of the role, I didn't think too much about the line at the beginning, because I was thinking like, oh, I'm sure like either we stick to the script like perfectly, or we're just going to kind of improvise while we go. I was more concerned about like the dread of. I'll say it like this: the worst fear for me is if my parents were no longer around, and I felt that there was unfinished business, or if I felt like I didn't really get to know them as well as I should have. And that could be for any number of reasons, like language barrier, cultural barrier, anything. And so in this story, because of what happens to my character, basically the worst fear comes true. And so I was just trying to keep myself there. Like, what would happen? I just asked that. What would happen if I could no longer like make that bridge with my father or with my parents or whatever? And I think the rest kind of just like dominoed after that.
So there were kind of two hurdles, and this is a question for Robin as we wrap up here. That these two men, these two young men, having just met, and they're having an intimate moment, but then also Tom's character, Finn, is also struggling with his family loss. Can you elaborate on that and how both of those kind of fought each other? That is, these two items, they fought each other, but it also worked together to make the film as a whole.
Right. So as Tom brought up, is there's a worst fear of because of homosexuality or because of queer identities, that it sort of creates a barrier for in between generations that stops communication, which is the fear of character, which is a fear that came true, a tragedy came true for Tom's character in Blind Chance, and it's the ending for Graduation, which is that there is this absence of communication, that we're also just caught in this embarrassment or shame or fear that we are no longer able to communicate to our parents or the parents to us, that we cannot sort of, and because of that, it's a question of what next, how should we move forward. It's when I think it's about finding the film is about finding a reconciliation between generations, that we don't, like, personally my fear is that having embracing your love or embracing your identities ruins a relationship with your parents, which is I guess a deep fear for a lot of queer people, and I think these films don't necessarily provide an answer, but they raise the questions as to how we should respond to the loss of a family or family members in certain ways, and how should we renew that thinking to reconnect and rebuild that bridge.
I want to thank Blind Chance for joining us here. If you'd like to see this film, you can check out the links in our bio. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.